Senate will come to order. Senators will be in their seats. Clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Argabright. Billinger. Blasey. Blue. Bowers. Bowser. Clays. Clifford. Corson. Dietrich. Erickson. Fagg. Valscadeau. Francisco. Gossage. Haley. Hill. Holscher. Klemp. Cluse. Masterson. Miller. Murphy. Owens. Peck. Peterson. Petty. Rose. Reichman. Schmidt. Schallenberger. Shane. Starnes. Sykes. Thomas. Thompson. Titus. Tyson. Warren.
Senators and guests, please rise and give prayerful attention to our guest chaplain. Pastor William Harris is from the Floods of Joy Ministry in Kansas City, Kansas, and he is the guest of Senator Klemp.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we come before you this 11th day of March 2026, thanking you for this Kansas Senate session. I pray for the men and the women that serve here as senators, Lord, that you would just touch them individually, touch them collectively, oh God. I pray for each and every one of them. You'll give them strength, the courage, and guidance. Also grant them the desire for bipartisanship, Lord, as they endeavor to reach across the aisles, Lord, to work together, that it would benefit all of Kansans, Lord. I pray also, Lord, that they won't compromise their true convictions, Lord, and I hope, Lord, that this will be the greatest Senate session, Lord, in history. I pray you'll fill them up with love and compassion. Finally, Lord, I pray for the governor of our great state, pray for the president of our great nation, our military forces, men and women currently serving over in the Middle East. Please keep them safe. Lord, I thank you for the opportunity, Lord, to pray here at this great session today, this assembly of men and women. This is our prayer in the mighty name of Jesus, I pray. Amen and amen.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For a point of personal privilege, Chair recognizes the Senator from Johnson, Senator Holscher.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am honored to recognize Kansas thespians as part of Theater in Our Schools Advocacy Day. Theater education is extremely beneficial to our students as it allows a creative outlet, as well as offering opportunities for students to find a support group through those very important high school years. Additionally, theater education leads to academic improvement, supports social emotional development, builds confidence, and enhances critical thinking. Kansas thespians promote lifelong learning through theater in approximately 100 high school and junior high thespian troupes across the state, with close to 3,000 inducted students. We are fortunate to have almost 300 students with us here today in our capital. Joining us on the floor here in the Senate chamber, we have Rice Green, please stand, Kaylee Drews, Gage Faunenstyle, Madeline Clark, Layla Fleming, Ava Weavering, Ashlyn Warren, Wyatt Angel, Hunter Clark, Madeline Loest, along with their sponsor, Katie Murphy. Additionally, we have several more students and teachers joining us in the gallery. Please join me in giving this extraordinary group a very warm welcome to the Senate chamber. Thank you all.
Second point of privilege, Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today I'm pleased to recognize candidates for Boys and Girls Clubs Youth of the Year and Military Youth of the Year honors. In our VIP gallery, we have finalists for the statewide Youth of the Year program. This is a program established by Boys and Girls Clubs of America in which outstanding youth at local clubs advance by exemplifying strong character, academic achievement, and commitment to community service. The Youth of the Year candidates have demonstrated exceptional leadership, dedication, and perseverance, serving as role models for their peers, embodying the values of respect, responsibility, and service. I'd like to take the opportunity to announce the 6 Club Youth of the Year folks that we have with us today. McConnell Air Force Base Youth Programs, Ava Frizzell, Mays High School. Boys and Girls Club of Lawrence, Layla Reitz, Free State High School. Boys and Girls Club of Topeka, Tierra Walker, Jarnine Middle School. Boys and Girls Club of Hutchinson, Gabrielle Markham, Hutchinson High School. Boys and Girls Club of Manhattan, Zoe Baldwin, Manhattan High School. And Boys and Girls Club of South Central Kansas, Marley Powell McClellan, Northeast Magnet High School, who is our state Youth of the Year. So please join me in a round of applause for these fine young people, colleagues.
Welcome to the Kansas Senate. We'll take an ease. We'll stand at ease for just a minute while we switch out VIP.
Yesterday, didn't we? So, thank you.
Yeah, I live there.
Yeah, me too.
Senate will return to order. Next point of personal privilege is the Senator from Meade, Senator Reichman. Yes, you've been recognized, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My OA has given me directions like he always does. Anyway, thank you, Mr. President. I am pleased to recognize and introduce to the Senate a most impressive group of students and parents from the Homeland Christian School in my 38th district community of Montezuma, Kansas. With the students seated in the VIP section and their parents up there, I'll ask them to please stand when I call their names. 7th grader Eli Cohen and his parents Katie and Brian Cohen. There you go. Also a 7th grader Cassidy Cohen and their parents Lori and Grant Cohen. 8th grade student Brett Smith and their parents Larcy and Jefferson Smith. 8th grader Keelan Smith with his mom and dad, Sharon and Lance Smith. And 8th grader Aubrey Unruh and their parents, Carol and Terrell Unruh. And finally, 8th grader Mika Taves and Todd Unruh, who are the responsibility of their teacher, Patrick Zimmerman. I ask that remarks be spread across the journal and that you please join me extending the warm Senate welcome to these fine young citizens and future leaders.
Welcome to the Kansas Senate. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Next point of privilege, the senator from Dickinson, Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am fortunate to have some family members on the floor with me today that have come a long ways to be here. And so I want to introduce them. They're over on the north side here. My mother, first of all, I want to introduce. She came all the way from Montana, left the snow and ice up there to come down to balmy Kansas. And I won't say how old she is, but I will say that she was an octogenarian about 12 years ago. So, and with her is my sister, Sandy Erickson from Nebraska, Funk, Nebraska, if anybody knows where that's at. And then next to them is my lovely wife, Lynette, which you guys all know, but she's down on the floor here today. So join me in welcoming them.
Feels like you brought Montana weather with you today. Final point of privilege is a senator from Leavenworth, Senator Klemp.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I like to brag about the first city of Kansas, Leavenworth, we do have in our chambers today a new hardest working city commissioner, Joe Wilson. If you'd stand up, I'd like to say hi. Just introducing him today, so thank you, everyone.
Welcome to the Kansas Senate. All right, I know we have some page introductions today. If you have pages, you please rise. Senator from Riley, Senator Starnes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to face you, but introduce my wife. It's in the gallery over here. Mary, if you'd please stand. Welcome to the Senate.
My husband, too.
Senator from Lyon, Senator Argabright.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have pages from Northern Heights High School, which includes some of the communities of Allen, Americus, Bushong, Admire, Redding, and Miller. Zane, Cooper, Faith, and Joanne, would you please stand? Welcome to the Senate.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, I'm honored to have as pages Luke Franco. Luke, if you would please rise. Luke is an 8th grader. He is a homeschooler from Wichita, and in his spare time, he likes hunting and baseball. I also have George Elpers. George is also a homeschooler from Kansas City. He's going to go to Shawnee Mission South next year as a freshman. And George let me know he is very tech savvy, so if anyone has any tech problems today, he's your guy. Thanks for being here with us today.
Senator Shawnee, Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm honored today to introduce my page, Cora McPherson, who's very special to our family. Yes, stand up. And she's a 7th grader at Washburn Rural North Middle School right here in Topeka. And she's one of the most civically engaged individuals, young people that I know. And she had the opportunity to help on my campaign in 2024 and probably was one of the youngest door knockers that we had on the campaign. And no surprise, also her mother, Megan, who we all know, Stuckey, Director of Communications. So good to have her with us today. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you.
Senator from Sedgwick, Majority Leader Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 4 pages with me today. If I'll stand and say their name, we have Levi Snook, Haley Snook, Greg Dugan, and Grace Dugan. They're 7th and 8th graders at St. Elizabeth Seton Catholic School in my district, and they had so much fun last year paging, they asked to come back. And you might recognize, if you sit on local government, I believe, or maybe it was Fenton State, sorry, Senate Fenton State, you might recognize Grace Dugan. She testified on the, I think it was the crematory bill that we had earlier in the session. So anyway, welcome back to the Senate.
All right, please note references of bills on page 1 of the calendar. Introduction of original motions and Senate resolutions. Clerk will read.
Senate Resolution 1733 by Senators Faust-Godot and Haley. A resolution recognizing the members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. for their outstanding service to the citizens of our state, our nation, and the international community, and their promotion of sisterhood, scholarship, and service.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Faust-Godot.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the reader read.
Whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. is a private not-for-profit organization whose purpose is to provide assistance and support in local communities throughout the world in diverse fields related to public service through the organization's 5-point programmatic thrust: economic development, educational development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness and involvement. And whereas on January 13th, 1913, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. was founded at Howard University in the District of Columbia by 22 collegiate women: Osceola McCarthy Adams, Marguerite Young Alexander, Winona Cargyle Alexander, Ethel Cuff Black, Bertha Pitts Campbell, Zephyr Chisholm Carter, Edna Brown Coleman, Jessie McGuire Dent, Frederica Chase Dodd, Myra Davis Hemmings, Olive C. Jones, Jimmy Bug Middleton, Pauline Oberdorfer Minor, Vashiti Turley Murphy, Naomi Sewell Richardson, Mamie Reddy Rose, Eliza Pearl Shippen, Florence Letcher Toms, Ethel Carr Watson, Wardy Blackwell Weaver, Madre Penn White, and Edith Mott Young. And whereas on March 3rd, 1913, the founders of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. participated in the women's suffrage procession in the District of Columbia, which was the sorority's first public service act. And whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. has 8 chapters in Kansas and a total of 1,000 collegiate and alumni chapters in the United States, Canada, Japan, Germany, and the Virgin Islands, Bermuda, the Bahamas, Jamaica, West Africa, and the Republic of Korea, with more than 350,000 members since its founding. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the State of Kansas that we recognize the members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority for their outstanding service to the citizens of our state, our nation, and the international community, and their promotion of sisterhood, scholarship, and service.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Faust-Godot.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my honor again to host the Deltas on the Senate floor, Mr. President. I believe the first time was when former President of the Senate, the first woman to serve in the Senate, Senator Susan Wagle, was here, and the Deltas have had Delta Day in the Capitol at least since 2004, Mr. President, when you and I were serving together over in the House of Representatives. The ladies in red, as we call them when my colleagues see them in the building, however, they are Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And again, it's a pleasure to have them here. Mr. President, I will yield to the senator from Wyandotte, Senator David Haley, to say a few words. Thank you.
Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Haley.
I'm grateful, Mr. President, to first the gentle lady from Sedgwick, my seatmate, Senator Faust-Godot, for bringing again this day, which precedes your service and hers in the Senate chamber, to recognize the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. As the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Fowles-Godot said, this has been an annual tradition, but it's no less august today as we recognize these ladies that are here. Delta Sigma Theta is a sorority, as the reader did read already in the resolution, co-sponsored this resolution 1733, that underscores dedication to community and to service. Many of us are members of sororities and fraternities, but there are few that have lifted the standard higher, from my experience, of service to community and advocacy and dedication than do the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I'm a son of Delta. I always share this part that, Mr. President, my mother was a Delta Sigma Theta, and as is my sister, Ann Haley, who's in Los Angeles now. My cousin led the Deltas at Clark Atlanta University for pledges. Even my former wife, who I was enchanted, Michelle Haley. Yes, I mean, really. I'm just trying to say I've admired and respected and seen some of the good works through all my life, and have been very much in tune and much appreciative, and am grateful, again, that we can take a moment here in the Senate chamber, which I hold dear, and these members do, to honor and to respect and to thank you for your service. Again, Mr. President and members, the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and let me again thank all the work that she did. The lady from Sedgwick, the gentle lady from Sedgwick, my seatmate, Senator Fowles-Godot, in bringing this day into fruition. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Fowles-Godot.
Thank you, Mr. President. The ladies in the VIP section on the Senate floor today, they are not only in red today, they are smart. They are intelligent. They fill the gap for us, Mr. President, when we deal with funding education on this Senate floor. These ladies are raising money on a regular basis to help send our Kansas boys and girls to college. Mr. President, I have witnessed myself over the years of the great work that these ladies do. They volunteer, they do so much for the communities, not only in Wichita, Kansas, Sedgwick County, where I reside, but throughout the state of Kansas, throughout the country, throughout the nation. They are a long history of women wanting to be excellent and wanting others around them to strive for the best that they can be, and to be great Kansans and great Americans. Mr. President, I am honored to introduce them individually today here in our VIP section. And they all have titles, but forgive me if I don't mention them, and they are so modest too, unlike me, Mr. President. We have Dr. Tamara Huff. She is their state coordinator to put this together. She does reside in Wichita, and she is related to Betty Arnold on our state school board, as a matter of fact. Is she your mom or sister? That's her. So yes. We also have one of the original ladies that first, I remember we've been doing this since 2003, at least, Mr. President. And this is Trudy Baker in Wichita. She is a former nurse. She is just she does so much. Thank you. She's one of the originators. We also have Nikki Oliver with us. Oh, she left the building. See, we took too long. I signed up early, but sorry you guys just got in. We have Alice Brayton Williams is with us here today, and you are from Leavenworth, Kansas City, Kansas. Thank you. We have Kathy Jones, if she would stand. Thank you for being here with us today. We have Kathy Marshall here with us today. Okay. We have the wonderful, talented I don't know anything in Wichita that she has not volunteered for, Mr. President. Even events that you've been at, she's been there volunteering. Brooke, if you would please stand. Brooke Burrow, if you would please stand. Thank you for all you do for City of Wichita and the state of Kansas. We have Dr. Alicia Thompson. Where are you? She was the superintendent for USD 259 for 8 years. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Thompson, for all you did for USD 259 schools. She didn't make it, and I couldn't pronounce it anyway. Thank you, Mr. President. We have Manita McCohen. Manita, thank you for being here. We have a dear friend, Tara Whitten, a businesswoman in Wichita and throughout the state of Kansas. Thank you for what you do for women and young. We just had the young lady who won with Opportunity Drive here today with the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you for all you do for our youth in Kansas. And last but not least, I just met her, Mr. President. I love her. I love her. Laura Coaxman. And thank you for being here today. Again, Mr. President, these ladies fill in the gap for us helping our Kansas youth. And so thank you again for being here. Angela, Mr. President, I'm going so they're in the wrong order. Please stand and just say your name. Angela Baker is here with us too from Wichita, Kansas. Thank you so much. I'm honored to do this, and thank you for coming. And Mr. President, with that, I want to move an emergency be declared, the rules suspended, and Senate Resolution 1733 be adopted by voice vote.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Resolution's adopted.
Mr. President, if we would all stand and give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Messages from the House. Clerk will read.
Announcing passage of Senate Bill 300 as amended, Senate Bill 331 as amended, Senate Bill 410 as amended, Senate Bill 412 as amended.
On a motion to concur, Chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson. On Senate Bill 299.
Thank you, Mr. President. The changes to the bill are very simple on Senate Bill 299. The House changed the enactment date from the publication of the statute to the Kansas Register, basically. And believe it or not, we got our wires crossed with the House. I thought they were going to do a conference on it, but no, they just wanted to change the enactment date. And that's the only change to the bill. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Questions for the Senator from Johnson? Seeing none, we will hold for final action.
Do I need to make the motion? I need to make the motion, probably, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 299.
You've heard the motion. We'll hold for final action. We're now ready for final action. On this roll call, we will take the following. The motion to concur on Senate Bill 299. Clerk will read the title.
Senate Bill number 299, an act concerning courts.
Clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Argabright. Billinger. Lazy. Blue. Bowers. Bowser. Clays. Clifford. Corson. Dietrich. Erickson. Fag. Faustido. Francisco. Gossage. Haley. Hill. Holscher. Klemp. Cluse. Masterson. Miller. Murphy. Owens. Peck. Peterson. Petty. Rose. Reichman. Schmidt. Schallenberger. Shane. Starnes. Sykes. Thomas. Thompson. Titus. Tyson. Warren.
Has every senator had an opportunity to vote? Senator from Johnson, Senator Holscher.
No die.
Anyone else to explain their vote? Change your vote. Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Miller.
I would also like to change no to aye, please, Mr. President. Thank you.
So ordered. Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Petty.
No to aye, sir.
Any further changes? Seeing none, clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. With 38 having voted in favor and 1 opposed to the passage of Senate Bill 299, this measure having received its required constitutional majority is hereby declared passed. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Sedgwick, Senator Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself to the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Chair appoints the presider of the Committee of the Whole, Senator from Barton, Senator Blue.
Good afternoon. The Senate has now resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole, with now considering those items under the calendar under the heading of General Orders. We'll now turn our attention to Senate Bill 384. The chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 384 amends the Public Innovative School District Act by changing certain timelines and deadlines to align with school budgeting, staffing, and hiring realities. These changes include applications would now be due to the State Board of Education for approval on May 1st instead of December 1st. It would reduce the window to renew and act on an initial application from 90 days to 45 days, and a reconsideration request from 60 to 45 days. The bill also provides that if an application is not acted upon within the windows established, the application would be deemed to be approved. With that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Are there any questions for the Senator from Sedgwick? The chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that this bill before us today is another zombie bill. And just as I brought up yesterday, this is a bill that should not even be on the floor right now. It was not touched or blessed by a committee before turnaround. Rather, it was blessed 8 days after turnaround. So I want to make it clear to this body that yesterday's actions of the Rules Committee accomplished one thing, and that was to give more power to the Senate President. We were told that this retroactive blessing of bills wasn't against the rules because the rules don't explicitly say that you can't bless legislation after the turnaround deadline. Though I'm sure we can all agree that was our intention when we agreed to these rules 13 months ago. We are setting a dangerous precedent in this chamber by allowing for those bills to continue to be worked despite having died. As I said yesterday, there is one retroactive blessing last year. There were 6 zombie bills this year, and now we will have, how many will we have next year? At some point, this body will no longer be governed by rules, but by the whim of the majority. Colleagues, by not standing up against this complete disregard for the rules that govern us, you have ceded your power to the office of the Senate President, and this power was given to you by your constituents. I also find it very interesting that even in this bill, we are talking about deeming something, if it doesn't meet this deadline, you have an example of what happens to it. And we are disregarding our own rules. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Sedgwick, care to respond?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there further questions or discussion on the bill? Chair recognizes the senator from Butler, Senator Masterson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm hard to see in the corner. But I thought since my position was mentioned, I'd respond. It may not surprise everybody that the senator from Johnson is incorrect, that this is not any kind of breach of the rules or breaking precedent. The rule clearly states that if once a bill has touched an exempt committee, it is viable for debate. And this bill has touched an exempt committee, and we're going to debate it. It's no different than yesterday. So nobody's ceding power to anybody. And just by the way, for the record, this body does operate under the will of the majority. So does the House and any body of consensus. So there's nothing scary or unusual about this process. Thank you.
For further discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes the senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have served in this body for a number of years, and there was always a rush to try to get bills blessed before turnaround, with the understanding that they would be removed from the list of bills that could be worked if they didn't receive such a blessing. So this is a different process than what I experienced during most of my years serving in this body. Thank you.
Further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, the senator from Sedgwick, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports Senate Bill 384 favorably for passage.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. For the next bill up, we will turn our attention to Senate substitute to House Bill 2212. For carrying the bill, we recognize the senator from Potawatomi, Senator Titus, to adopt the committee report and explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate for House Bill 2212 would create a new section in the Kansas Emergency Management Act to allow for the needed security and logistical support for large pre-planned events. This bill would apply to large events such as the World Cup, the Super Bowl, national political conventions, and other similar events. A declaration under this provision of the Emergency Management Act would be valid for up to 15 days and then must be reviewed by the LCC and can be extended for up to 90 days. Rather than utilize the very broad powers intended for actual disasters, this bill would limit the emergency powers for security purposes such as standing up the State Emergency Operations Center, coordination of state and local agencies, and requests for federal funds. Most states that routinely host large pre-planned events have developed similar specific authorities to deal with their security needs. This bill would sunset on July 1, 2027, and would allow for a full review by the legislature next year after we've gained some experience. We worked with the Adjutant General's office on fine-tuning this bill, and I will stand for any questions.
Are there questions on the bill? Chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Falscadeau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to know from the Senator, how much money would the state gain from this legislation? Thank you.
Senator for Pottawatomie, Senator Titus.
I was unable to get a clear answer to that question. The state's already been appropriated around $38 million between state and federal funds to provide for security. Whether there are additional federal funds available, I could not say.
Further discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you. I just rise in support of this legislation as someone who serves on KC 2026 to make sure that we are able to work with federal delegation and law enforcement. This is much needed, so thank you.
Further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, Senator from Pottawatomie, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports Senate sub for House Bill 2212 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passes. Next order of business is Senate Bill 381. For the purposes of carrying Senate Bill 381, the chair recognizes the representative from Riley, Senator Starnes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 381 establishes new educational requirements related to social studies curriculum in Kansas schools, focusing on instruction about communist and socialist regimes and ideologies, as well as American civics. The State Board of Education is directed to develop age and developmentally appropriate curriculum materials and guidelines to provide students in grades kindergarten through 12 with an understanding of communist and socialist regimes and ideologies. Each school district must provide this instruction to all students in grades K-12 and may utilize the curriculum materials developed by the State Board. The Act amends existing law regarding civics education requirements for high school graduation. All accredited schools must provide instruction in civil government, United States history, patriotism, and the duties of citizenship suitable for elementary grades. All accredited high schools would also be giving instruction on the government and institutions of the United States, particularly the U.S. Constitution, and no student may be certified as having completed graduation requirements without a satisfactory passing such a course. The most significant new requirement establishes that all students who enroll in grade 9 on or after July 1st, 2026, must pass an examination on the principles of American civics in order to graduate from high school. Students may request to take this examination at any time after enrolling grade 7 and may retake it as often as necessary to achieve a passing grade. School boards may administer the examination as part of the required curriculum at their discretion. The examination must consist of 100 questions substantially similar to those administered by the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services naturalization applicants. Accommodations for students with individualized education programs, IEPs, are governed by their individual plans. The State Board of Education is authorized to adopt rules and regulations to implement these provisions, including providing a model examination and establishing the passing score. The act would take effect upon publication in the statute book. The why, I've provided some materials from the Pew Research Center. I've got other sources that say basically the same thing, that we are not able to have students and or Americans, 19% of Americans aged 45 and under can pass the multiple choice version of the citizenship. 34% of Americans aged 18 to 29 say they hold a favorable view of communism, and 62% say the same of socialism. With only 63% of Gen Z and millennials believe that the Declaration of Independence guarantees freedom and equality better than the Communist Manifesto, compared to 95% of the silent generation. The bill does not circumvent the Kansas Constitution regarding powers of the Kansas Board of Education. Under authority and functions of the State Board, legislative authority, the legislature is tasked with providing for the establishment and maintenance of public schools, as well as defining the powers of the duties of the State Board of Education. Local governance, local school boards operate under the general supervision of the state board, which is supported by locally elected boards that manage a school. This bill defines the duties of the state board to develop and school districts to provide instruction on communist and socialist ideologies and regimes for students in grades K-12. The bill would authorize the state board to adopt rules and regulations to implement the bill. The rules and regulations could include, but would not be limited to, providing a model examination for use by any school district or by the governing body of any accredited private parochial high school, and establishing the passing score for such model examination. Materials as developed by the state board to provide instruction in civil government, United States history, patriotism, and citizenship suitable for elementary grades. All high schools must provide instruction of the United States, particularly of the Constitution. The local district may utilize a curriculum and materials developed by the state board, and students must pass an examination on the principles of American civics in order to graduate from high school. Students may request to take this examination at any time after enrolling in grade 7 and may retake it as often as necessary to achieve a passing score. School boards may administer the examination as part of the required curriculum at their discretion. The examination must consist of 100 questions, again, substantially similar to those administered by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to naturalization applicants. And again, IEPs are governed by their individual plans. The state board is authorized to adopt the rules and regulations to implement these provisions. State board develops a curriculum, materials, guidelines. Local control is how it is taught, utilizing Kansas Board of Education curriculum materials, and local school districts determine when, how it is taught. As one opponent testified, to be engaged, one must test skills, practice developed through sustained engagement, to be educated and know the materials. This bill provides that the students must know the materials since it's a K-12 curriculum. Once they know the materials, they may choose to become engaged. Utilizing academic freedoms, teachers determine how they're going to deliver the State Board of Education curriculum. And with any graduation requirements, courses are passed through the administration of tests to determine competency. With that, I stand for questions.
For discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Blasey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I applaud the Senator from Riley for this bill. I think it's very important that we teach the dangers of communism and the many things that it has destroyed families and countries. But however, the last week we've discussed a lot of bills about clarifying public schools, private schools, accredited, non-accredited. And so just to keep with consistency, I have an amendment that will clarify that with this statute, and that would be, or this bill, and that would be 4232.
I'm assuming you turned it in.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we will distribute the amendment. Amendment appears short, but let's wait till it is distributed, and then you may proceed to explain.
Madam Chair, so this amendment simply just says that accredited private school means accredited by the State Board of Education.
Is there discussion on the amendment? Chair recognizes Senator from Riley, Senator Starnes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Majority Leader, regarding clarification. I think it is important to remain consistent with other bills that we've passed prior to, so I believe this is a friendly amendment and would support it.
Further discussion or questions on the amendment? Seeing none, you may move your amendment.
I move my amendment.
You've heard the motion, All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it. Motion passes. We are back on the bill. Is there further discussion on the bill. The chair recognizes Senator from Finney, Senator Clifford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to read from the state constitution, and it is Article 6, Section 2, the State Board of Education and the State Board of Regents. The legislature shall provide for the State Board of Education, which shall have general supervision of public schools, educational institutions, and all the educational interests of the state, except educational functions delegated by law to the State Board of Regents. The State Board of Education shall perform other such duties as may be provided by law. The legislature shall provide for, I'll strike that, that's on the regents. Many of these things we're suggesting, Madam Chair, are very well intended. I like all the ideas. I think this type of education is needed. However, we are getting way out of our lane by directing these things. And just this week, we've directed physical education during or recess, and now we're talking about civics lectures. I'm considering asking that in addition to a fiscal note on bills, we get a curriculum note to know how much of the curriculum of our K-12 we're writing here down in Topeka. So however well-intentioned, I just think this is wrong for us in the legislature to be writing school curriculum for K-12, and I'll stand opposed to this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson, for further discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We heard this sobering statistics from the senator from Riley on how many of our young people view socialism and communism very favorably. So with that, I have an amendment.
Have you turned it in, and what is the number?
Yes, Madam Chair, it is 4242.
Okay, we will distribute the amendment, and when it is distributed, then you can explain your amendment. Senator, the amendment appears short. Would you like to explain or have it read?
I will explain, Madam Chair.
Proceed.
Madam Chair, this amendment is very simple. The bill as is written says that students in grades kindergarten through 12 will have an understanding of communist and socialist regimes. This inserts after of the negative impact of communism and socialist regimes in 2 places on the first page. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Are there questions on the amendment? Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question for the carrier of the amendment would be, why wouldn't we also want to understand if there are any positive impacts of particularly socialism?
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson.
If there were any, I think we would include those, but there isn't.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would say that a number of governments in Europe have socialist policies. I would think that Medicare may be considered socialist because it's providing a service for all. So just like we should say may and may not, I would like to say negative and positive.
For discussion on the amendment, does the senator from Riley care to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I see this as a friendly amendment and support it. Thank you.
For further discussion on the bill, and I just want to say the light pole is not in the way. The chair recognizes the senator from Wyandotte, Senator Petty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe it's because you're a little shorter. I hope that's the case. I find this amendment interesting. In the bill, it says, with an understanding of communism and socialist regimes and ideologies, and the word understanding seems to be broader than just saying negative. If in fact the purpose of this bill is to talk about that students need a broader understanding and of ideologies that control governments around the country, I think that we are, by using the word negative, coloring it, because some of these have, as was mentioned earlier by this senator from Douglas, have pieces that are being used in different parts of our own country. But when put all together, they would not be what we might have as being part of a democracy. So when I first saw this, I thought, okay, negative, but the more I think about it, it's not providing, I believe, what the maker of this bill intended when, for example, even using the stats that are provided for us today, coming from the Pew Foundation, that we want our students to have a broader knowledge, and so I don't think that this amendment helps to provide that.
Senator Erickson, care to respond?
Well, Madam Chair, I would just like to say we are a constitutional republic. It's shocking to me that we would have to even think twice about making sure our students, obviously, they're getting it from somewhere that socialism and communism are a good thing. I would think we would all agree that it's not. That's not what our country is founded upon. We don't want to be a socialist or communist country, and so I don't understand the controversy about making sure our students understand that.
For further discussion, the chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson. I do want to say the light pole is in the way for you on this side.
Yeah, I need to sneak out around behind that. Thank you, Madam Chair. I stand in full support of this amendment. I don't know if anybody's read the Black Book of Communism. It's over 800 pages. I spent most of the summer reading it. And if you do, and maybe it should be in required curriculum in our schools, you look at the 100 million killed, dead from socialism. Socialism is just the next step to communism, by the way. Communism is the ultimate goal of socialism, if you understand it. And this covers the Bolshevik Revolution. And unfortunately, these young folks are being taught a very rosy picture of socialism. I would encourage anyone to get the book. It's thick. It's a very tough read, but it lines out all the dangers of socialism and communism and the lessons that we've learned. And we need to teach that. These schools need to be counterbalancing whatever they're teaching. I don't know what it is, but this is a constitutional republic. I support this amendment, and you can't say enough bad things about socialism. Thank you, Madam Chair.
For further discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Haley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a somewhat different tact on the amendment and certainly on the underlying bill, and I would urge each of us to open our minds and keep our minds open to where we are in the world today, what civics look like, what an understanding of various ideologies might look like, and I want to thank the senator from Riley, who's bringing the bill, for some illustrative information. For those, Madam Chair, who may not have seen it, he has distributed what's called the modest declines in positive views of socialism and capitalism in the U.S. And despite the inflammatory heading on there, Madam Chair, some of the Pew Research Center data, and I have a tremendous amount of regard, I should say, for the Pew Research and various other think tanks. But if you delve in deeper to some of what the senator from Riley has provided in this document, it talks about differing views already held of the two areas that we're discussing here, and which is addressed in the amendment that's before us of both socialism and capitalism. It wasn't jaded, or it didn't seem as if the surveys that were propounded asked if the respondents saw as positive or negative the concepts of these political and social philosophies. Again, socialism or capitalism. But when you read this, and I'm willing to take some of these statistics at their, as being somewhat accurate, there are already a decided differences based on political affiliation and the other demographic of existing income differentiations there in our society, and then there's racial, even brought up in this study. I'm saying all this to say that by slanting what seems to be a view held already in our society, a well-traveled society, a well-addressed society, by already holding certain views of concepts, capitalism, socialism, even communism, to suggest that the way people already think right now and to indoctrinate into future teaching how they should or should not think based in, is characterizing something as positive or negative, is to skew or attempt to skew what people think and how they think in an open environment for learning. Nobody wants to study something if it is categorized as negative. And to indoctrinate or to suggest and to put in statute that any particular philosophy is negative is to put the thumb on the scale, if you will, for how open learning could indeed progress. Do you understand what I'm saying, Madam Chair? So let me give you an example. I was born and raised from the time I was very young as in a Christian household. Born and raised a Christian. My parents are very steeped in their religion, very much so. And it wasn't until I was, I guess maybe in late elementary school, that I had a very good close friend who was, well, he was Jewish. And I didn't know, I was Christian, Sunday school and church all the time. But long story short, let me get to the chase. I shared with some friends, not my parents, who have always been pretty open-minded people. My father was actually in this body in the Senate at the time. He was a senator over there, sat over there near the pole that you can't see beyond, Madam Chair, was where George Haley sat. And there was someone who was friends of our family, and I said, this is my friend, my very good friend that I've met. We're in school together, and his name is Larry Tansky. And Larry is a good guy, very nice. We're good friends. We're old enough to make decisions for ourselves, but he wears a yarmulke, and he wants me to come to some programs. And I was told by these people that that is a very negative way of thinking, that Larry's family and what they believe, that it's a negative, that a Christian would never embrace. It was negative to think of anyone else who worshiped in another teaching, who were, in this case, Jewish, that it was inherently bad. It was not to be extolled or followed or understood. Don't try and appreciate what they're saying. It's a negative thing. It took me a little while to get out from under that, Madam Chair. I didn't understand until it was really many years later that the foundation of Jewish faith, which I now admire in many, many ways. I now admire many of the teachings of what some would say interactive religions. I've been involved with interfaith services from not only the Jewish community, but also the Muslim community and others. But it took the stigma of early learning as negative that was foisted on a kid in an educational or non-educational, because it was couched as negative and something not to be extolled or to followed. Of course, we're talking about religion, and this is talking about civics. And so I'm concerned now here many years later about indoctrinating with the concepts of what some consider to be positive or negative. We all want to say capitalism is positive, and some are trying to say by this amendment that other ways of thinking that have shown value and that are societally accepted, in this case, socialism or capitalism, would be negative. How long would it take when there's already held these views according to the document that from the Pew Research that the senator from Riley offered to reverse with indoctrination of negativity that might be put on this bill, that just because we think, or the majority thinks one way, that any other way that we think, because we're all Christians, anybody that worships Jewish, Muslim, or whatever might be seen as not being positive because we're Christians, and that's negative. Now, because we're capitalists, by and large, Madam Chair, anybody else that thinks any other way in society, or that looks at other doctrines that we could be followed, like socialism or these are negatives. It's bad, bad people, bad. It's terrible. You know, if this were put in play for adults, people at whatever that is, 18, 21, wherever you want to define, Madam Chair, as adulthood, I'd be less likely to be opposed. But indoctrinating kids with inflammatory language for what's positive and what's negative, even though there are mainstream acceptances, not just in America, but in a worldview of these particular concepts, is not a good thing to do. It's a negative thing to do. It's a bad thing. And I would hope we wouldn't go down that narrow thread, that McCarthyism, that yesteryear thought of indoctrinating kids with inflammatory language because of whatever view we might have grown up to believe, or even that we hold, especially when it comes to social and economic development of our children. In case you hadn't figured it out, Madam Chair, I don't support this amendment.
Senator Erickson, care to respond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'm kind of at a loss as to why on earth there would be so much pushback. It's obvious the indoctrination is happening on the other side. Thus, we have so many young people who are so misled on this. Communism and socialism are fundamentally opposed to the U.S. Constitution. They are fundamentally at odds. The hypocrisy is not lost on me, Madam Chair. I remember a few years ago, the State Board of Education had a blow up on the argument of should we be teaching creationism in our schools. And if you recall that debate, Madam Chair, it was like there's no place for that. It's not based in fact. I wish we would have had that that concept of open-mindedness then, but here we are now with students who do not understand what this country was founded on, do not understand the deadly and ruinous implications or consequences of communism and socialism. I would like for someone to tell me what country has ever succeeded as a socialist or communist country. We need to let our children know the truth, the facts, and be proud of what this country is founded upon. So I fundamentally reject the notion that this is indoctrinating. It's truth, and it's fact, and it's what our students should be learning. Thank you, Madam Chair.
For further discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Clays.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are good things and bad things in the world, and we know which is which. This isn't as confusing as people like to make it sound. One little fact check that I just wanted to throw out there is that there aren't any socialist European countries. They are all capitalist countries. They don't operate as socialist countries. And furthermore, I think that when we look at these socialism and communism and, you know, the idea that we should equate them in some way or not denigrate one of them in particular, it's important to realize that communism and socialism have slaughtered 100 million people in the world. To me, that's a pretty darn big number, and I think it's pretty clear that one of them is terrible and the other isn't. So when we think about capitalism, one thing important to keep in mind is it's called free market capitalism. Free market, the freedom to engage in the transfer of items and wealth between individuals. And the reason why communism has never worked is because it requires collectivism. And humans are not a collectivist animal. So you have to build an authoritarian structure to enforce collectivism. We are a cooperative animal, and that's why it works so well with free market capitalism, because you have to have a choice in cooperation, to choose to cooperate. And that's why it has been so wildly successful. Throughout history, or when studying history or looking at social sciences, it's very rare that we have an opportunity to have a laboratory to make comparisons. There's always a bunch of other factors in there. You know, you look at a country and you say, well, they didn't, you know, it's because of their geography or because, you know, they didn't have enough rivers or they didn't have, you know, it's their culture or something like that. But we have two amazing laboratories where we tried communism and we watched it just utterly fail compared to capitalism. Look at East and West Germany, and look at North and South Korea. If you look at South Korea at night, North Korea is just dark. There's no light because there's no economy there. They've been utterly destroyed. So anyway, I fully support this. To me, it's a very easy vote. I'm surprised anybody could be against teaching kids that bad things are bad and good things are good. With that, I yield.
So further discussion on the amendment, the chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a former teacher, I stand in support of this. We've seen too much revisionist view of history, and we need to talk about the results of a certain form of government. We're not talking about religion here at all. We're talking about a form of government. We've seen the results. I was fortunate enough to be in South America recently, days before Venezuela was vindicated, and they were able to see a change in regime. And there were people when I was in Argentina and Uruguay from Venezuela talking about how much they wished they could get out from under socialism, and they were told how amazing it was going to be and how horrible it has been. And I think that we need to remember that. We heard earlier a senator mention an 800-page book. I have a little 50-page booklet for everyone. It's entitled The Morality of Capitalism and How Capitalism Works, and would encourage the body to take a look at that. And with that, I support this amendment and this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Erickson, you may move your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move my amendment.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion passes. Further discussion on the bill. Chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yet again, we have a bill that has been raised from the dead, counter to what we heard on a previous education bill. This action is not clearly permitted by the rules, and we know that because the rules don't in fact say what we were told that they say. So I just encourage the body to read the rules upon themselves and make their own determination. But I stand in opposition to this because our Kansas schools are already mandated to teach students about history, government, and political systems. And this is redundant. As someone who had 2 boys who excelled in school, and both will be graduating from college a semester early, which I'm very proud of. I've been paying a hefty tuition for private school for college. Our schools prepared them very well and taught them critical thinking. I go back to when my son was in middle school, and we were on a vacation, and we were in the Caribbean, and they heard a different story about Christopher Columbus there that they had not been taught in their school. And Christopher Columbus, people who were on the boat, and they did not agree with him. He tied them up under these trees that the sap in the leaves caused them to go blind. And so he tied up prisoners and put them under these trees. And so my children had learned that Christopher Columbus was this amazing person and who founded North America and all of this. But he was like, Mom, why didn't they teach me this? So I think we need to be very cautious as we are trying to mandate and pick winners and choosers, losers. We want our kids to be critical thinkers and to be able to look at all sides of an issue and figure out what is going on. And as I watched my kids in AP Euro, AP US government, and AP government, or AP US history, European history, and government, I saw what they had to go through, the work that they did. They did very well on those AP tests. And so again, we are tying the hands and trying to dictate, which I think we are not staying in our lane.
Is there further discussion on the bill? Chair recognizes the Senator from Johnson, or Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Petty.
I do have a piece of Johnson, but I'm in Wyandotte. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an amendment. It is 4236.
I'm assuming you've turned it in.
I have.
We will distribute the amendment. The amendment is short. Would you, after it's distributed, would you like to explain it or have it read?
I can explain it.
Okay, let's take a moment to distribute the amendment. Senator, you care to explain your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, as we heard from the carrier of the bill, and with the materials that he actually also provided on our desk, this bill is focused on understanding of communism and socialism regimes and ideologies requiring students pass an American civic examination in order to graduate from high school. I have to be honest, I don't believe we need this bill. I think the State Board of Education has standards in place, and that is their job, and we are treading on them. But my amendment, if in fact if the focus is on higher ed, this amendment takes out kindergarten through 6th grade and insert, so it would be 7 through 12, where this curriculum would be covered. And I'm just coming at this from the place of being a primary school educator, and even as I taught for 10 years preschool, 4-year-olds, I made valuing our community and government a part of the education, but it didn't focus on any kind of a philosophy. It focused on, learning the names of those that represent us, whether it be the President of the United States or the mayor of Kansas, Wyandotte County, so that are the symbols for the state of Kansas when it was in January, when it, it's Kansas Day. And that being part of a community, a country, what citizenship is. So those are the kinds of skills that young thinkers need to develop so that they can, if and pass this legislation would pass, so that they could have the basis to then work from to understand, well, what is capitalism, as well as what are communism and socialism regimes, and how are they different. So as I said, it takes out kindergarten through 6 and keeps the focus on the secondary level. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
For questions on the amendment, the chair recognizes the senator from Riley, Senator Starnes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator, for pointing out the importance of teaching civics at an early age. And I'm thankful that you did that. And we need to continue to do that, and that's why K-12 is included in it. They start taking the test as early as 7th grade. So they're prepared from kindergarten to 6th grade, which you're removing, to be able to start taking the test to show competency. And I think it's very important that in all situations there's accountability and there's competency. One thing, too, that I'd like to address from the senator from Finney, as far as the information of the Constitution, and I appreciate his thought process, but the Kansas legislature has a long and well-established history of maintaining certain types of instruction in public schools. They require already, of course, we've talked about United States and Kansas history and government, because they've always recognized it as proper role in ensuring civic foundations are taught. And that comes to the question, are civic foundations being taught? Number 2, the legislature said to the state board, we need financial literacy, because they determined this knowledge too important to leave to chance. They also told the state board, career and technical education standards, health education, and computer science. These are all areas where legislature has appropriately set statewide expectations, and I see this bill as being in line with doing that.
Further discussion on the amendment, or care to respond, Senator Petty?
Yes, I will. So the bill actually talks about being required to start taking the test from 9th grade on, not from 7th grade on. It's a examination on the principles of American civics, and that students can take it over and over again, which in reality could mean you could be doing it in a group, you could be doing it as a group, and not, I think, in fact, I think group working is an important asset for students to be able to discuss and learn from each other. But this doesn't say that you have to take it in a set way, and that you can take it, I don't know, you could take it 45 times, but you have to, and it is making another requirement for graduation, which that in itself is a concern, because most of our school districts have already added on some of their own requirements above what is required by the State Board of Education. Removing kindergarten through 6 has no impact on that, because you still have middle school and into high school and And you already have, as part of our curriculum, state standards, you already have basic government structures that are already being taught. So saying that students would not then be qualified or have the basis to work from, I think is not correct. I think that we already have that in place for kindergarten through 6th grade, and but getting into the ideologies is, you know, it is a higher level, and this would mean that young people have a stronger basis from their own government level, went through 6th grade and knowing what just their general government around them is like before they actually are then exposed to the discussion about communism and socialism and regimes and ideologies. So I do think it's appropriate to look at it, if this is the goal of this bill, to work towards a test that students are going to pass. It makes sense that it starts when they're in middle school and above.
For further discussion on the amendment, the chair recognizes the senator from Riley, Senator Starnes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again, Senator, for your questions and clarification. I think it's important that we start early and often to teach. As an old coach used to say, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. We need to start early with teaching students about civics. And again, I applaud you what you did in your own teaching career. And that further helps me understand that we need to continue to do that at an early level. The State Board of Education will determine what the curriculum may look like. Local school districts may choose when and how they're going to teach it, but we're providing for a K-12 curriculum with a goal, again, to prove accountability by passing the 100-question test. And I guess the question is, too, if we're getting this already, can the students pass the test right now?
Further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Petty, you may close it and move your amendment.
Thank you. Well, middle and high school students have the academic foundation to examine complex systems such as authoritarian regimes, constitutional democracy, and different economic structures in a thoughtful and responsible way. And that's why with this amendment, would we be moving K-12, we're focusing on that capacity that has been developed. Introducing complex political ideologies to very young students can be developmentally inappropriate because those concepts require abstract reasoning, historical context, and comparative analysis that are typically developed later in adolescence. Without that foundation, younger students may oversimplify ideas into basic labels rather than understand institutional structures, causes, and real-world outcomes. Early elementary civic education is best focused on foundational principles such as community rules, citizenship, and basic functions of government. A sequential approach introducing detailed ideological study in middle and high school ensures students are cognitively prepared to engage with the material thoughtfully and accurately. I think I would think that we all believe that we want our children to become critical thinkers and to be able to ask questions and not just feel like they're a teapot that we're pouring water into. And which is what, in some ways, is what a test is, just saying we want them to spout it out because they can take it 45 times. So I believe that removing the K through 6 then focuses on that level that they are academically and developmentally ready for this more in-depth discussion about different kinds of authoritarian regimes and being able to look at how important democracy is. So with that, I move my amendment.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Noes have it. Motion fails. We're back on the bill. For further discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Falscadeau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I rise to say both of my daughters graduated summa cum laude, and so I want all our children to learn and be excellent and do the best that they can. Madam Chair, and really I just rose to say happy birthday to the senator from Riley, Senator Starnes. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot, Senator. Thank you. Thank you.
What a great birthday to carry a bill. For further discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes the senator from Jackson, Senator Bowser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to beat this dead horse and make sure it's really dead here. I'm old enough. I was a member of the armed forces during the Cold War. And I can tell you that none of those countries that were trapped behind the Iron Curtain wanted to fight for communism. They all wanted to fight to leave. Poland, ask somebody from Poland if they think communism is a good idea. East Germany left. Czechoslovakia didn't want to stay. Hungary, Romania, Albania, I could go on. None of those countries thought communism was a good idea. They all fought to leave. I did my doctoral dissertation and research on Venezuela. When you look at Venezuela, you think, geez, that country has the world's largest oil reserves. They've got beautiful beaches, they've got fantastic mountains, wonderful jungles. I mean, hell, just on tourism alone, that country could be very wealthy. Their oil business, again, world's largest oil reserve, that by all accounts should be a very prosperous nation. And in fact, if you look at that country prior to this Chavez socialist administration, they were doing really good, the wealthiest country in South America. But under the Chavez socialist administration, we saw gross economic mismanagement, massive expropriation of private businesses, strict price controls, which resulted in no food, no toilet paper, etc. Disaster. When I was in school, we weren't required to study socialism or communism, but we did read this book by the great author George Orwell. The book was called Animal Farm. And in that book, this group of animals decides to revolt against their human overlords. They wanted to create an equal society. Their revolt was successful, but what really happened was then the pigs seized the power and established a brutal dictatorship. Maybe that sounds familiar with a few folks in this room, and it should resonate. It really rings true to this bill, Madam Chair, and for that reason, I'm going to be supporting this bill, and I thank Senator from Riley for bringing it, and again, happy birthday. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further discussion on the bill. For further discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me, I'm tangled. So I'm not a huge fan of this bill, mainly because I know that the schools are, I usually advocate for schools to write their own curriculum as intended, the system that we currently have in place. I don't hate it, however, because I do think it is important for students to learn such things. I think it's also important. Some of my colleagues, both on my side and across the aisle, have talked about the importance of learning critical thinking and learning the truth about things like communism and socialism. So, and I've said for most of my adult life that some basic level of understanding of civics and how the United States government works should be required of every citizen. We expect it of our immigrants who are applying for citizenship. Now we're talking about requiring it from our high school students. However, I would already argue that all of these things are taught. They're taught in a little bit more critical thinking, encouragement type of way, rather than imposing what the majority in this body believes to be positive or negative. But requiring it of high school grads, I like the concept. I think a better understanding of how our government works in comparison to other countries, it should be expected of all of us. I believe that if every member of this body had a true, in-depth, academic, non-biased understanding of socialism and communism, and also democracy, constitutional republicanism, authoritarianism, capitalism, etc., that we could probably rest assured that we wouldn't see as much legislation like this come across our desks. This conversation for another day. I also think back to my own personal elementary school experience, as well as the experiences of all the young children that I have in my life, nieces and nephews, etc. I realized that I was not at all mature enough to understand or mentally prepared to understand the complexities of political ideologies. I was more worried about Hot Wheels and whether or not I'd be allowed to play until dark. I do remember starting these classes in middle school and somewhat understand the concepts, so I think it does make sense that starting this kind of education as early as possible is important. But it would make more sense, in my opinion, to start in middle school, and I also think that it's important that we not limit the ideologies that are taught to just socialism and communism, especially since an amendment has been put on this bill already to include the negative connotation to these things. So I think that we should expand that list, and for that reason, I have an amendment.
Have you turned it in, and what is the number?
Yes, I have, and it is number 3797.
We will distribute the amendment, and the amendment appears somewhat lengthy. Do you plan to, would you like the reader to read, or would you like to explain?
I don't mind explaining, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, we'll wait till everyone receives it.
We could have the clerk read maybe the first 10 lines or so.
Okay, just wave when you're ready for her to stop reading. The clerk will read.
I move to amend Senate Bill 381 on page 1 in line 12 by striking kindergarten and inserting 7 in the line 13 by striking communist and socialist regimes and inserting major political, also in line 13, after ideologies by inserting economic systems and regime types, including but not limited to 1, communism and socialism, 2, fascism, Nazism, and other totalitarian ideologies, 3, authoritarian and hybrid regimes, 4, liberal democracy and constitutional republicanism, and 5, capitalism, mixed market economics, and command economies. Also,
the reading has been waived. Senator Miller, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So there already has been an amendment that we spoke about, and it did not pass, that included starting its education at grade 7 instead of grade kindergarten. And I already mentioned why I personally believe that that might be the case. I don't think that I personally would have understood any of it in elementary school. And especially considering how young and fresh and malleable my mind was, I believe that if I was told a specific negative connotation, such as my colleague mentioned earlier about being, the word indoctrinated early in life to believe that certain things are bad and certain things are good without coming to that conclusion for themselves. But also the main goal of this was to not just limit it to communism and socialism, because I do believe that there are many negative connotations to communism and socialism. And on the other side of that coin, I know that we have multiple noted socialized programs in this country that some people in this country do definitely enjoy. We are not a socialist country. I can absolutely agree to that. However, the idea of socialism as a whole taught as negative is not necessarily something that I agree with. However, I also think that if we are teaching negative connotations, we should talk about fascism, we should talk about Nazism, totalitarian ideologies, authoritarianism, etc. And also, before the negative word was added with the previous amendment, I wanted there to be, going off the basic understanding of the bill, that it was going to be encouraging the understanding of communism and socialism. I wanted to expand on understanding the difference between, quote, liberal democracy, constitutional republicanism, the differences there, the semantics arguments that constantly get brought up. And also an understanding of capitalism, mixed market economies, command economies, et cetera. So that was the intent of the bill. And at the moment, I would stand for questions. So.
Are there questions on the amendment? Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a question, but I do stand in support. I think if we don't also talk about capitalism, mixed market economies, command economies, then we will only hear negative things. People might also want to be taught some positive things.
Further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Miller, you may close and move your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So given the nature of the previous amendment failing, I would even be open to a potential conceptual amendment simply to include fascism, Nazism, totalitarian ideologies, etc., numbers 1 through 3, if we are leaving it to negative, or 1 through 5, depending. But I would be open to that, but it doesn't seem like there's any interest in discussion on the matter, so I would move my amendment.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. All those opposed say no. Noes appear to have it. Noes do have it. Motion fails. Further discussion on the bill? Seeing no further discussion on the bill, Senator Starnes, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the discussions, and we all care about what's best for our country and best for our kids. And I believe that as we move forward with this, the committee rises and reports Senate Bill 381 as amended favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it. Motion passes. We'll now turn our attention to Senate Bill 340. For the purposes of carrying Senate Bill 340, the chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 340 would just make changes to the Kansas Promise Scholarship Act, which would prohibit those awards from being used to fund remedial courses offered in core requisite format. Basically, if you require remediation, this bill would change it to where Promise Act scholarship money would not be able to be used for that, for those courses. I do have a small amendment when the time is right, but with that, I will happily stand for questions.
Are there questions or comments on the bill? For discussion, the chair recognizes the senator from Wyandotte, Senator Petty.
Thank you. I just would remind the body about the importance of the Promise Scholarship. This, as many of you would remember, you were here and some not, this was established in 2021 by the legislature. It's been amended several times. And the purpose of the Promise Scholarship is to offer Kansans the opportunity to earn a credential in high demand fields. And I have been interested in Promise Scholarships long before I actually came to the legislature. In fact, I had, a lot of you may know that there are Promise Scholarships at the high school level. I mean, well, this is at the high school level going on, but that have been promoted by communities around the country to help those students in their communities be able to go on to higher education and then come back to the communities. And this is exactly what this Promise Scholarship does. High demand fields, including information technology, security, mental and physical health, advanced manufacturing, building trades, early childhood education, and elementary and secondary education. And it's being offered by our community colleges across the state. The big thing about this piece of legislation is that it will help to keep in fact, it's very popular. It will help to keep it funded. And the other thing is that in order to be eligible for that Promise Scholarship, the student must be a Kansas resident, a U.S. citizen. The Their family has to be in an income level. They have to take the FAFSA. They have to complete the application in order to be considered. And and then they also are responsible to give back, to stay in Kansas. So there are just so many ways that this is one, building our, supporting our students, keeping them here in Kansas, building up that economic workforce. I stand in support of the Promise Scholarship and this amendment that would help to stay alive longer.
For further discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Day of the Dead continues, but I do support this legislation, and I think we all could have voted to suspend the rules to do this in the appropriate manner.
Further discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes the Senator from Johnson, Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have an amendment.
Have you turned in, and what is the number?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have. It is 4197.
We will distribute it. It is short. Do you want the clerk to read, or will you explain?
With the chair's permission, I'll let everybody pick it up and look at it, and then I'll explain it.
All right. We will take a moment to distribute it. Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All this amendment does, in committee, we heard from the community colleges, and they requested this amendment, and when we passed the bill out, the amendment had not been offered yet, so that was a clerical error, and I'll totally own up to that being my fault. So the amendment basically says, if you're taking a 5-hour course, and 3 hours of that are remedial, but 2 hours still go to the degree that you're chasing, the 2 hours will still be covered. So that way the remedial part is not covered, but the part that actually advances you towards your degree will be by the Promise Act scholarship. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Are there questions on the amendment? Chair recognizes the Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Petty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in support. The important thing is that we want the students that apply for the Promise Scholarship to be able to use that towards their goal.
For further discussion on the amendment, the chair recognizes the Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I also rise in strong support of this. The Promise Act already does not allow funding of remedial courses. This is in keeping with that to make sure that the dollars for the Promise Scholarship are maximized for college level credit. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Thomas, you may close and move your amendment.
Madam Chair, thank you. I move my amendment.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it. Motion passes. Is there further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, Senator Thomas, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports Senate Bill 340 favorably as amended.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it. Motion passes. We're now ready for House Bill 2635. And purposes of carrying House Bill 2635, the chair recognizes Senator Thompson from Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2635 would enact the Pregnancy Center Autonomy Rights and Expression Act, which provides statutory protections regarding the practices of pregnancy centers and medical pregnancy centers. And those are defined as private nonprofit organizations that do not perform abortions, provide abortion-inducing drugs, or make referrals for abortions or abortion-inducing drugs, and that promote childbirth and alternatives to abortion. Now, what this bill does is prohibits any state or municipal agency from enacting or adopting any law, regulation, policy, or other measure that requires a pregnancy center or medical pregnancy center to offer or perform abortions, to provide or distribute abortion-inducing drugs, to make a referral for an abortion or an abortion-inducing drug, to counsel in favor of abortion or abortion-inducing drugs, to post any advertisement, sign, flyer, or similar material that promotes abortion or abortion-inducing drugs, or provides any information about obtaining an abortion or abortion-inducing drugs. The bill also shall not prohibit a pregnancy center from providing information, care, counseling, classes, or other services related to pregnancy, childbirth, and parenting. Prohibit a pregnancy center or medical pregnancy center from providing prenatal or postnatal resources, including diapers, baby clothes, baby furniture, formula, and similar items. Cannot prohibit a medical pregnancy center from providing medical testing, medical counseling, and medical care or treatment related to pregnancy or childbirth, or prohibit counseling a woman on any pregnancy-related care or treatment. They also shall not interfere with staffing or hiring decisions of a pregnancy center or medical pregnancy center by requiring that center to interview, hire, or continue to employ any person who does not affirm the center's mission statement or agree to comply with the center's pro-life ethic and operating procedures. Section 5 allows them or any aggrieved party to commence civil action for damages, declaratory relief, injunctive relief, or any other appropriate relief. And if they are successful, can be awarded costs of the action and reasonable attorney fees. Section 6 allows for the intervention on behalf of the Pregnancy Resource Center by the legislature or a legislator. The legislature may, by concurrent resolution, appoint one or more members of the legislature to intervene as a matter of right in any legal proceeding in which the constitutionality or enforceability of this act is challenged, and that appointment would remain in effect in the event that person ceases to become or be a member of the legislature. Section 7 is the severability clause, and if enacted, this would go on to be enacted upon publication in the statute book. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Are there questions or discussion for the carrier? The chair recognizes Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the senator from Johnson gave a good description of the bill. Section 2 of the bill has 7 declarations that, and I quote, "The legislature hereby finds and declares that," and then these 7 declarations. So can the senator from Johnson tell me what evidence was presented to the committee to back up these findings?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, there was testimony by proponents who talked about the life-affirming care of the pregnancy centers and basically delineated them from what happens at abortion clinics and Planned Parenthood. So this really kind of lines out what kind of care these centers provide and affirms that, and basically lines out what services are provided. And they are very different from the abortion clinics. And so I think it's important to note that in this bill so that anyone reading the bill understands what we're talking about with regard to pregnancy centers or medical pregnancy centers.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, indeed. There was some testimony about what the pregnancy centers do. Was any of that from an individual who had gone to a pregnancy center and was testifying in support, or were most of those, in fact, I think all but one, those proponent testimonies were from individuals who were either an executive director or staff at one of those pregnancy centers?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Well, they were executive directors or had or with other organizations, but they have visited those pregnancy resource centers and they know exactly what goes on.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. They work for those centers. So this is like having people describe in a very positive way what they think that they're doing. So I'm concerned because of the 13 individuals outside of those who are involved directly with the pregnancy center, only one was a proponent and 12 were opponents. And some of the comments that they made were that they had a friend who had an ectopic pregnancy and they were concerned what would happen if that person had gone and gotten a sonogram from someone who was not able to read that correctly and send them to the medical services that they need. People were asking that and saying that they deserve factual information about their options. One of the rabbis testified, and I'll find this, he testified that to privilege one religion understanding of reproductive rights is to violate the Constitution's First Amendment and represent a threat for the Jewish community's ability to live out the teachings of their tradition. So I think most importantly, I'd like to share the testimony from the one individual who actually had gone to a pregnancy center to seek services. This was a young woman. She said that crisis pregnancy centers don't provide health care. They disguise ideology as compassion, and they should not be protected or rewarded by our government. She goes on to say, when I was 20 years old, I found myself unexpectedly pregnant. I was scared, alone, and looking for information about my options. I searched online for help and found what looked like a women's health clinic. I thought I was going to get medical advice and emotional support. Instead, I walked into a room designed to manipulate me. The staff spoke in soothing tones at first, but their words quickly turned intimidating and guilt-driven. When I asked for more information about abortion, they handed me pamphlets filled with misinformation and claimed that abortion could cause cancer and infertility. I was told horror stories, that abortion would ruin my body, that I'd regret it for life. I now know that those claims are false, completely debunked by real medical experts like the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists and the American Medical Association. But at that time, I didn't know who to trust. They had me in a small room and showed me a graphic, outdated video of a surgical abortion meant to scare me. They never mentioned medical abortion, which was an early, safe option. These organizations are not licensed medical facilities, yet they present themselves as such. They don't follow medical ethics, aren't held accountable when they lie, and have no state oversight. Madam Chair, another question I have for the senator from Johnson. Would he agree that there was differences of opinion on the statements that are made in Section 2?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
There's always going to be differences of opinion because we have proponents and opponents. And the opponents obviously are going to produce the worst possible case scenario as it was represented by the testimony that was just read by the good senator. And, you know, one has to question what the motive of that testimony was and what the situation was. There are many, many people who have very good experiences in these pregnancy resource centers. I think if someone went to a pregnancy resource center with the intention of thinking that they were going to get an abortion, they're going to the wrong place. They're going to somewhere that is providing life-affirming care and hopefully trying to encourage someone not to abort the baby because of all the physical and mental and psychological issues that surround abortions. And so, yeah, there's always going to be difference of opinion, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So would the senator from Johnson be able to say if removing Section 2 from this bill would have any effect on what the what could be accomplished by passing this bill.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
I think what it does is sets out the differences between the abortion clinics at Planned Parenthood and the life-affirming care of the pregnancy resource centers. So I think this, while it doesn't have any statutory effect, it does have the effect of describing what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it, and why it's important that these pregnancy centers remain autonomous and not be forced into things that are contrary to their belief system and what they believe is good and best for the mother and for the life of the baby. So I believe that Section 2 is very important.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And there is a difference of opinion. I think that this is just statements only supported by those individuals who are executive directors or run a pregnancy center. We didn't hear from any individuals who had gone to one and were testifying in support. With that, I have an amendment. I've turned it in. It's 4231, and I'd be happy to explain it.
We will distribute the amendment, and once everybody has received it, you may explain your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is one of those amendments that you have to explain because it's simply striking lines and renumbering things. But what this does would completely eliminate Section 2, where the legislature finds and declares that that the life-affirming impact is considerable and growing, that pregnancy centers serve women with integrity and compassion, that they provide comprehensive care, which may not be the case, that they offer women free, confidential, and compassionate services. We heard from one woman who felt that she did not receive compassion. And I don't think it differentiates these pregnancy centers from centers that may offer some of these same services, but also provide abortions, because it doesn't say anything about them. You may remember from committee that we heard from some people who testified that in their care of that center, that they would talk with people about both childbirth and abortion, but they didn't like the idea that on line 31, I just take the V and the E out of over and ask them to provide support and resources from women who choose childbirth over abortion. So this would not affect anything that the bill would do. It would continue to provide that all the state agencies, could not require anything of a pregnancy center. It just would remove unnecessary ink from our statutes. I'd be happy to stand for questions.
For questions and a discussion on the amendment, the chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Once again, I believe Section 2 is very important to the bill. I believe it really is basically a mission statement so that people who are confused about what the role of a pregnancy or medical pregnancy resource center is can see what we're talking about in the bill. And apparently that young lady that was described in the opponent testimony was not clear. She showed up expecting the first thing out of the pregnancy center mouth to be, well, you can have an abortion, but that's not what these people are about. So she was apparently confused, and so I believe this is important to leave in the bill and would deem it unfriendly. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Francisco, care to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In reading her testimony, she was not seeking an abortion. She was seeking help and advice. And one of the things that's been confusing is sometimes these pregnancy centers locate themselves, adjacent to other medical facilities, and they advertise as if they are clinics. So I think that's been the problem, that people feel that they've been tricked or are not providing or have not been given appropriate help. When they think they're going to just ask questions and get help, they feel that they may be steered in a particular direction.
For further discussion on the amendment, the chair recognizes the senator from Finney, Senator Clifford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to speak as someone who has visited a pregnancy care center. In fact, 2 of my adopted children came about because of the, in Section 2A, the life-affirming impact of pregnancy centers. Our local pregnancy center was a great resource for someone who became a birth mom to my last 2 children. I would say in B, they do serve women with integrity and compassion, and I've been there with this birth mom and seen how they interacted with her. It's interesting that in C we talk about care for women, but it adds and men, and there are courses that our pregnancy care center offers to both women and men, and they really demand of the men to be responsible fathers, and I think for our society, this is an exceptional role. Indeed, their information is certainly confidential. Again, I said it was compassionate. They do provide free testing, which is important for women who may be stressed financially. They're accessible 24/7 with hotlines. And again, in D, you see the childbirth and parenting classes, again, aimed not just at the mom, but at the dads. Our pregnancy center, thanks to our Knights of Columbus fundraising, does have an ultrasound. We have a qualified family practice doctor, a woman, who's qualified in OB and does deliveries, and she comes in once a week and offers ultrasounds, as you see in E. I do think they provide life choices. I'm certainly pro-life, and that would be my preferred message, and certainly they are square on that message. They provide resources. They have a store where the moms and dads, especially when they're attending classes, they get store credit, and they can come in and get diapers. The families all have to have a car seat. They won't deal with folks who won't have and use a car seat, so they provide car safety seats. So I would vouch for all of these things that are listed under Section 2. So I would oppose this amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Francisco.
Thank you. Madam Chair, may I ask a question of the senator from Finney, or can I ask if he would stand for one?
Senator from Finney. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think there's over 200 pregnancy centers in Kansas. I may be wrong about that number, but is the senator from Finney familiar with a particular center, or is he familiar with a number of these centers?
Senator from Finney, Senator Clifford.
Yes, Madam Chair, I can't claim to frequent pregnancy care centers. However, in the case of our center in Finney County, I walked this journey twice with a birth mom, and there's a network of these, and our director, I asked, are these services unusual? Is this what other pregnancy care centers provide? And she assured me that her network, certainly in my part of the state, provides this level of care to all women. And again, I emphasize that the birth dads are part of this journey.
Senator from Dallas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I think the issue is that we are describing all pregnancy centers when we may know of some that are incredibly helpful and others who may have volunteers who are less able to provide that compassionate care or understand. So I'm pleased that some of these are doing a good job, but again, nothing by taking this statement that just by definition that you're a pregnancy center, then you are doing a good job. I think that's putting an unfair kind of legislative stamp of approval, again, without any evidence that that there isn't a variety of services and that some centers have indeed provided coercement or unreliable information.
Further discussion on the amendment, the chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you. I'm going to rise in support of this amendment because I believe in truth in advertising. So I will say there are some good things that these crisis pregnancy centers do. One of those is signing women up for Medicaid so that they have access to health care. That is actually, if you read some of these reports, that is the #1 thing that they do besides giving clothes and car seats. But I am concerned because I do think there are a lot of pregnant people who are tricked and they don't know the difference between a CPC and a legitimate healthcare provider. I actually had a friend who worked at one of these facilities, and he ended up leaving because as a Christian, he felt that they were being deceptive and lying to individuals. He also felt that reducing unwanted pregnancies should have been one of the issues that they dealt with. And they were adamantly opposed to providing contraception, which we actually know is one of the best ways to stop unwanted pregnancies, is access to contraception. I think Section 2, letter C, comprehensive care, if they're not able to do that, provide contraception, that is not comprehensive care. So regardless of if they have ultrasound or other services, CPCs, they may provide those, but they are not regulated by our healthcare facilities. So putting medical centers in there and not having them follow the Board of Healing Arts, those same inspections and accountability that we require of other healthcare medical situations, we are lying to Kansans. So I support this amendment, and I appreciate the senator for bringing it.
Further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Francisco, you may close and move your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I'm not sure that we should say as the legislature, we are finding and declaring something that we heard both sides of in testimony, that the only individuals who had experience, or the individual who had experience, was in opposition. I don't think this changes how we would protect these pregnancy centers if this were removed from the bill. I move my amendment.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Noes appear to have it. Noes do have it. Motion fails. We're back on the bill. Senator Francisco, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So there's a few other things that I think were confusing about this bill. One that I'm not sure we talked about very much in committee, but that's that there are two different definitions of abortion-inducing drug in the bill, and they're different. So one says a drug means any medicine, drug, or any other substance prescribed or dispensed with the intent of inducing an abortion, and the other says abortion-inducing drug does not include any drug that may be known to cause an abortion but is prescribed for other medical indications. So those seem a little bit in conflict. And then the other concern I had is in adopting the language here and adopting the definition of a pregnancy center, are really saying a pregnancy center is an organization that does not perform abortions. But in fact, I think a more logical or comprehensive definition would be pregnancy center means a nonprofit organization providing sexual and reproductive health care, education, and patient advocacy that offers pregnancy-related services like STD testing, birth control, cancer screenings, and abortion, and provides women, children, and families with resources, counseling, classes, referrals, or information related to pregnancy. I think that too could be the definition of a pregnancy center. But I do have one other amendment that I would like the body to consider. I've turned it in. It's 4241. And I would like the clerk to read this.
Okay, we will distribute the amendment, and after it is distributed, we will have the clerk read the amendment. The clerk will read.
I move to amend House Bill 2635 on page 1 in line 9 by striking 7 and inserting 8, in line 32 by striking 7 and inserting 8, on page 3 following line 25 by inserting section 7, any medical pregnancy center shall conspicuously post a sign that is printed with lettering that is legible and at least 3/4 of an inch boldface type, and that reads, notice from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment to patients using services from this medical pregnancy center. This center is not licensed or regulated by the Kansas Board of Healing Arts and does not have to comply with federal HIPPA regulations and provide privacy rights for patients. Also on page 3 in line 26, by striking 6 and inserting 7, in line 27 by striking 6 and inserting 7, in line 30 by striking 6 and inserting 7, and by renumbering sections accordingly.
Senator Francisco, care to explain your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have some requirements in the Women's Right to Know Act about notices that need to be posted in an abortion clinic. This notice is very similar to the language. Those other ones start with notice from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. But it does then help those individuals who've come to the clinic to understand that the clinic is neither licensed nor regulated by the Kansas Board of Healing Arts, and it does not have to comply with federal HIPAA regulations. And I think since that's the case, there isn't any reason not to inform women about their right to know and let them know this. I'd be happy to stand for questions.
For discussion and questions on the amendment, the chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not questions, but just comments. First of all, we know that the woman's right to know has been enjoined by the courts, and so that's one thing. But more importantly, this notice implies, well, let me back up just a second. Planned Parenthood abortion clinics are also not regulated or licensed by the Kansas Board of Healing Arts. So this implies that the pregnancy resource centers either are inadequate or not qualified to provide the services that they are. It also implies that they're not respecting the privacy of the people who come there, and they absolutely are. And as a matter of fact, in the 2018 Supreme Court ruling in NIFLA versus Becerra, Javier Becerra was the Health and Human Services Secretary under Obama. The court ruled that a requirement forcing non-medical pregnancy centers to add large disclosures about their non-medical status wrongly implies that they were unqualified to provide charitable services. It also implies that, well, there's a distinction. The Supreme Court in their ruling distinguished between a notice of informed consent for procedures such as an abortion versus notice of state-sponsored services that conflict with the service provided at the Pregnancy Resource Center. And the Supreme Court, with strict scrutiny, decided that, let me get to exactly what they said here so I can read it. Small print. The Supreme Court made a distinction in its analysis regarding informed consent for medical procedures and informative resources for non-procedure-based services. It distinguished the present case from Casey based on the fact that gaining a woman's consent to an abortion is different than requiring medical professionals to give notice to patients regarding state-sponsored services that conflict with the services provided at the facility. The Supreme Court applied strict scrutiny, holding the act required medical professionals at these crisis pregnancy centers were narrowly tailored to serve a compelling government interest and resulted in an unconstitutional content-based speech compulsion. In fact, this year, New Jersey introduced a bill that would mandate pregnancy centers post similar signs indicating they're not licensed healthcare facilities. And this type of requirement was also ruled unconstitutional based on NIFL v. Becerra. And in fact, this amendment goes even farther than the California case and that I'm citing here on the Supreme Court in citing the HIPAA regulation. So it implies that the pregnancy resource centers are violating HIPAA. So with this Supreme Court ruling, this would immediately be struck down as unconstitutional. So it's obviously an unfriendly amendment, Madam Chair.
Senator Francisco, care to respond?
First of all, can the senator from Johnson confirm that abortion clinics are not licensed by our Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and in fact, that those providers are not under the Kansas Board of Healing Arts?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
That is correct. The abortion facilities themselves are not licensed or regulated by the Kansas Board of Healing Arts. The individual physicians who might perform the abortions may be, as is the case with the physicians who come to the pregnancy resource centers who perform the medical services there. And they are bound by HIPAA. So this implies that there's some difference or some qualification deficit for the pregnancy resource centers and pretends to put the abortion clinics ahead of the life-affirming care at these centers provided by qualified professionals who do come there to provide these services for women and for their spouses or significant others.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you. Again, Madam Chair, my understanding is that abortion clinics in Kansas are regulated through the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, whereas these, even the medical pregnancy centers are not.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
They are voluntarily licensed, but they are not required to be licensed by the state board.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would really appreciate a reference stating that, because our understanding has always been that abortion clinics are licensed, and certainly through state statute, we put a lot of regulations on them, and So if the senator from Johnson could help me with a reference to the fact that they're not licensed.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
I believe it was, I would have to check, but I think it was actually in the testimony. But I know in conversations I had with several people that they did confirm to me that it's a voluntary basis. If the abortion clinic wants to be under KDHE, they can do so, but they are not required to.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I find that a little hard to believe because, in fact, they are providing a clearly a healthcare service, and I think to do that, they would need to be licensed. The pregnancy centers may or may not provide medical services, but my understanding is they are not required to be licensed.
Senator from...
Yeah, I could restate it again. It's a voluntary basis for the abortion clinics. The individual physicians are licensed and regulated, but the clinics themselves are not and not required to be. So if they're doing so voluntarily, that's one thing, but they are not required by the State Board of Healing Arts to be licensed or regulated in the same fashion that these nonprofit private organizations are not forced to be regulated by the State Board of Healing Arts.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to yield to the senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, Planned Parenthood and Trust Women are regulated and licensed by the Kansas Department of Health and Environment as ambulatory surgical centers, and that is ensuring that they do meet those safety, sanitation, and structural standards. And the KDHE rule, because KDHE licenses and inspects clinics that are qualified as ambulatory, so it is not voluntary. This is actually required because of that ambulatory surgical center. Thank you.
I don't know who has the floor. Can you yield back?
I will yield back to the senator from Douglas.
Senator from Douglas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that specificity with regard to the answer. I'm ready for more questions.
Senator from Miami, Senator Shane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for the senator from Douglas. Are there penalties in Kansas for practicing medicine without a license?
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
I'm assuming that there are, and they would be overseen by the Board of Healing Arts.
Senator from Miami, Senator Shane.
And why would we distinguish between pregnancy centers and medical pregnancy centers?
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Because we are not regulating these centers, so we're not distinguishing between the individuals, we're distinguishing between the center itself.
Senator from Miami, Senator Shane.
I think that there is an important distinction when you're adding in the term medical, which has clear implications on the standards and the requirements. And indeed, in Kansas, it is a crime to practice medicine without a license. Is medicine ever practiced outside of licensed medical facilities?
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Yes.
Senator from Miami, Senator Shane.
Thank you for that response. Yes, it occurs all the time, whether that's a COVID vaccine clinic in a school, or if that is the good senator in our body that's a ophthalmologist that might be performing a home visit. There is a huge distinction between performing a sterile surgery for the removal of one human from another human and providing other services, consultation, counseling, and provisioning to support a pregnancy. That is not necessarily a medical service. And there's good reason why, when you perform surgical abortion, as was referenced by the senator from Johnson, that is regulated and monitored as an ambulatory medical service because that requires a sterile medical environment. There is an important distinction. As we've already covered, medical pregnancy centers and standard crisis pregnancy centers might be viewed differently. Medicine is regularly practiced outside of a licensed facility, and there are crimes for performing medicine without a license. So with that, I will yield.
For further discussion on the amendment, the chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Yes, and earlier the senator from Douglas had asked on the reference on the clinics. The second Hodes case struck down clinic licensing. So once again, the clinics are not licensed and regulated by the State Board of Healing Arts. The court struck that down. The individual physicians who might perform the abortions fall under a different situation where they are required to be licensed for the obvious reasons. But as regarding the clinics themselves, they are not in the same way that the clinics for the pregnancy resource centers are not required to be licensed.
Further discussion on the amendment, the chair recognizes Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Another question for the senator from Johnson. Does he know if the requirement for posting a notice from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment in abortion clinics was also struck down?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
It was deemed, this type of notice was deemed unconstitutional in the NIFL A case v. Becerra in the Supreme Court. So if we adopted this, it would immediately be struck down. This would basically throw this into the courts. And just earlier this year in New Jersey, they struck down a similar attempt. So this is either an attempt to put us into the courts with this bill or just to do something that's already has been deemed unconstitutional with strict scrutiny. So there's no wiggle room when the Supreme Court rules in that fashion.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Perhaps the senator from Johnson did not understand my question. It was, are the notices in the Women's Right to Know Act that are required to be posted with lettering that is legible and at least 3/4 of an inch bold-faced type, are those still required to be posted in abortion clinics?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
The Women's Right to Know Act has been enjoined by state court. So right now, it's not, those postings are not required.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to have an opportunity to dig deeper into what's still being required under the Women's Right to Know. I'm thinking that I'm going to have another opportunity to address this issue based on a bill that we heard just this morning in Federal and State Affairs. With that, I would like to withdraw my amendment, but I do appreciate the discussion and the comments that yes, abortion clinics are regulated by the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. Thank you.
The amendment has been withdrawn. We're back on the bill. For further discussion on the bill, the chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Holscher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No questions, just a couple of comments. Kansas is facing a serious maternal health crisis, and there are so many other things this legislative body could be doing to improve the lives of Kansans, including addressing maternal and infant mortality rates by looking at the disparity of health care between African American and Caucasian populations. We could be advancing policies that address the social determinants of health, like housing and food insecurity. We could also be improving the application process for safety net programs. But what's more problematic is these crisis pregnancy centers sound great, but the reality is that groups like the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, as well as the American Medical Association, the actual subject matter experts, consider these centers unethical. HB 2635 would weaken existing consumer protection standards by granting private pregnancy centers broad exemptions from transparency and disclosure requirements. This bill risks creating confusion rather than clarity in an already complex healthcare landscape. Instead of empowering individuals, this bill places the burden on patients to discern which information is medically accurate. For those reasons, I oppose this bill.
Thank you. Body, I just want to remind you, we got a little bit quiet right there, but we were a little noisy, so just keep the sound down. Further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson, you may close and move your bill.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. There is a reason for this bill. Since 2022, there's been at least 26 state legislatures that have introduced measures like this that would undermine pregnancy centers' autonomy and life-affirming care work. 6 states have enacted such measures. And so we're trying to prevent that. These are great centers. They do great work. They're trying to save lives, both mothers' lives and the unborn babies' lives. And so this is a very important bill, and I would hope the body would support it. And with that, I move that the committee rise and report House Bill 2635 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion passes. On to Senate Bill 406 for the purposes of carrying Senate Bill 406. The chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Thomas. Senator Thomas.
It happens all the time, Madam Chair. Don't worry about it. Thank you. Body Senate Bill 406 would require the governor in consultation with the State Workforce Development Board to approve eligible workforce training programs for the federal workforce Pell Grants that were established most recently in H.R. 1 at the federal level and start on July 1st of this year. So to be able to utilize them, the board needs to codify their responsibilities, which the bill does, and also decide in consultation with the governor what programs we will be offering for the workforce Pell Grants. And with that, I will stand for questions.
There are questions for the carry of the bill. Seeing none, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the body rises and reports, it reports Senate Bill 406 favorably.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it. Motion carries. The last item of business we have today is Senate Bill 304. For purposes of carrying Senate Bill 304, the chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 304 would establish the Born to Invest Act. It would require the Office of Vital Statistics and Kansas Department of Health and Environment to provide the state treasurer with information on children born in Kansas for the purpose of providing informational material on the following 3 government-administered savings accounts: the 529 Educational Savings Account, the ABLE Savings Account, and the Trump account. The treasurer be required to disseminate such information through publication on the state treasurer's website and through financial literacy educational training. With that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Are there questions for the carrier? The chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you. Not a question, just another comment. I had a funny zombie pun, but I'm not as funny as the other senator from Johnson. And so just a reminder that this is another bill that had died.
Further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, Senator Erickson, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports Senate Bill 304 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passes. The chair recognizes the majority leader from Sedgwick, Senator Blasey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Clerk will read the committee report.
On motion of Senator Blasey, the Senate resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders with Senator Blue in the chair. Recommended, Senate Bill 384 be amended by adoption of the committee report and the bill be passed as amended. House Bill 2212 be amended by the adoption of the committee report recommending a substitute bill and the substitute bill be passed. Senate Bill 381 be amended on motion of Senators Blasey and Erickson and the bill be passed as amended. Senate Bill 340 be amended on motion of Senator Thomas and the bill be passed as amended. House Bill 2635, Senate Bill 406, Senate Bill 304 be passed.
Chair recognizes Senator from Barton, Senator Blue, to adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move that we adopt the Committee of the Whole report.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Reports of standing committees. Clerk will read.
Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare begs leave to submit the following report. The following appointment was referred to and considered by the committee, and your committee recommends that the Senate approve and consent to such appointment by the Governor, Seat 8, University of Kansas Hospital Authority, Debbie Wilkerson. Mr. President, your Committee on Public Health and Welfare begs leave to submit the following report. The following appointment was referred to and considered by the committee, and your committee recommends that the Senate approve and consent to such appointment by the Governor, Seat 4, University of Kansas Hospital Authority, Mark Ulig. Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommends House Bill 2533 as amended, or be amended, and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Government Efficiency recommends House Bill 2573 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation recommends House Bill 2579 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation recommends House Bill 2471 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation recommends House Bill 2647 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation recommends House Bill 2542 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation recommends House Bill 2615 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommends House Bill 2702 be passed. Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommends House Bill 2763 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommends House Bill 2587 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommends House Bill 2534 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends Senate Bill 454 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends House Bill 2519 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Mr. President, the Committee on Education recommends Senate Bill 515 be passed. Mr. President, the Committee on Financial Institutions and Insurance recommends House Bill 2564 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Financial Institutions and Insurance recommends Senate Bill 524 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Financial Institutions and Insurance recommends House Bill 2590 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Local Government, Transparency and Ethics recommends House Bill 2737 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Education recommends Senate Bill 438 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources recommends House Bill 2505 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources recommends House Bill 2511 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommends House Bill 2760 be amended and the bill be passed as amended.
Under the order of business consideration, the motion is to concur or non-concur. The chair recognizes Senator Shawnee, Senator Dietrich for motion on Senate Bill 300.
Mr. Vice President, I move the Senate non-concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 300 and request a conference committee be appointed.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Appoint Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, Senator from Butler, Senator Fagg, Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Miller as conferees on behalf of the Senate. Chair recognizes Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich on a motion on Senate Bill 331.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate non-concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 331 and request a conference committee be appointed.
Heard the motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Chair appoints conferees on behalf of the Senate, Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, Senator from Butler, Senator Fagg, Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Miller. Chair recognizes Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich on Senate Bill 410.
Mr. Vice President, I move the Senate non-concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 410 and request a conference committee be appointed.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Chair appoints as conferees on behalf of the Senate, Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, Senator from Butler, Senator Fagg, Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Miller. Chair once again recognizes Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich on Senate Bill 412.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate non-concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 412 and request a conference committee be appointed.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carried. Chair appoints as conferees on behalf of the Senate, Senator from Shawnee, Senator Dietrich, Senator from Butler, Senator Fagg, Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Miller. This time I'm withdrawing House Bill 2767 from the Select Committee on Veterans Affairs and re-referring to the Committee on Commerce. Are there announcements? Chair recognizes Senator Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice President. The Senate Select Committee on Veterans Affairs will meet tomorrow at noon. It'll be our final meeting of the session. It'll be in 144 South. We've got one bill to hear and 3 bills to try to work and get done in the course of an hour. And I promise, lunch will be provided. It was a little slow getting there last time. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Chair recognizes Senator from Sherman, Senator Billinger.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just a heads up to the Senate Ways and Means, we'll meet tomorrow at a regular time. Thank you.
Senator Wyandotte, Senator Petty, are you recognized?
Am I standing?
Yes, you're standing.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So you have on your desk a flyer about early noon caucus. It has to do, the theme is paid leave for working Kansans, and it will be on Monday at noon in 118 North. I'm sure some of you know a lot about it, but if you'd like to learn more, Nurture KC is going to be the presenter, and it'll help us know like what other states are doing when it comes to paid leave. So lunch will be provided. Just need to, as you can see, who you need to respond to there to let us know you're going to join us on Monday at noon. And this will be actually the last presentation this year through the Early Learning Caucus. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The first-term senators will meet tomorrow morning at 7:30 in room 546, and anybody is welcome to join us. Alan Conroy is going to come and Q&A on capers.
Chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Sedgwick, Senator Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Senate will be on general orders tomorrow, and the following bills will be up above the line. Mostly House bills, so everybody will be excited to hear that. House Bill 2568, 2652, 2507, 2433, 2745, 2250, 2413, 2605, 2478, 2540, and Senate Bill 515. And most of these bills are pretty non-controversial, so I think they'll move pretty fast, so don't get overwhelmed by the number of them. Senate Republicans will caucus in our usual room immediately upon adjournment. I yield to the Senator from Douglas.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Senate Democrats will caucus immediately upon adjournment in 287 North. I yield back to the Senator from Sedgwick.
Senator from Sedgwick, Majority Leader Blasey.
Mr. Vice President, just a reminder for everybody, the Senate will be in on Friday at 8 a.m. to vote final action on all the bills that we're going to be debating tomorrow. And with that, I move the Senate adjourn until 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, March 12, 2026.
For the motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.